presenting today is Abraham Kuyper. Abraham was an extraordinary Dutch pastor, theologian, scholar, journalist, educator, and statesman. He was born on October 29, 1847 in Maasluis, which is a city in the Netherlands. From 1863 to 1874, Abraham served as a pastor in Beest, Utrecht, and Amsterdam. He was heavily influenced by the Orthodox Calvinist views of Guillaume van Prinsterer. The newspaper that he founded in 1872, called Die Standaard, was used to express Groen's ideas to people throughout the Netherlands. After getting elected to the States General of the Netherlands in 1874, which is the National Assembly of the country, Abraham became the leader of Groen's political group. A few years later, he expanded the group to form the Anti-Revolutionary Party, which is the first properly organized Dutch political party. The party was based on a program that combined Orthodox religious views and progressive social views, and Abraham gained a large lower middle class following. In 1880, Abraham founded the Free University at Amsterdam to provide a more thorough training in Calvinist doctrine for Dutch pastors. Up until 1886, Abraham was a part of the Reformed Church of the Netherlands. However, in 1886, he decided to leave because he began to view it as overly aristocratic. Eventually, he founded his own churches in 1892, called the Reformed Churches in the Netherlands. Finally, Abraham rose to the position of Prime Minister of the Netherlands in 1901, which is when he started to focus more on political reform than religious reform. Abraham preached many religious ideas, but the main one was about the concept of worldview. He emphasized that everyone has a worldview, or a personal way of perceiving and interacting with reality. Abraham believed that in order to effectively carry out God's work throughout the world, or just missionary work, we must discover and understand what worldview means to the minds and cultures that we're trying to reach with God's word and grace. Building off of that concept of worldview, Abraham also preached that a worldview that is reformed by God is one that is governed by the belief that all of life is to be lived for the glory of God. In other words, there's no area of life that is not subject to the lordship of Christ, whether it be life inside church or outside church. That's all.
Okay, thanks, Caleb. I'm especially proud because Caleb is from my church. Yeah. Okay. Oh. Okay. All right. Thanks, Caleb. Even Kuyper was not a hero of mine. I wish I could have time to study more about him. Think about it. He is not only a pastor, as a theologian, university principal, church founder, and prime minister. It's an amazing a person can accomplish so many things. All right. Who remember what are those 7 mountains are? Can you name some of those 7 mountains? Alexi? This could be in the final, okay?
Me?
Yeah, Alex, yeah. Just name some of the 7 mountains. What?
Forgot.
Rita.
I don't remember this.
It's the 7 areas. Remember we talked about, I'll give you the hint. The first one is family, where we start. What other things?
They had business, media, entertainment, church.
political, like government.
Very good, very good. Wow. Church, education, government. Pay attention in the final. I'm going to just see. I said, oh, education, where we are equipped, true or false. Okay. So basically, the final just true or false question. So pay attention to the matching. Okay. So education is where we are shaped, right? Government, where we govern, right? Business, where we work. Media, where we handle the truth. Arts and entertainment, where we celebrate. Okay, this is seven mountain strategy. We're going to focus for this rest of 4 sections. All right, and you can say this is how we're going to live out our biblical worldview. We learn all this creation of, don't forget that creation, what? Alex, creation
Fall.
for, what's next, Caleb? Caleb Zing?
Redemption.
Redemption. Next one, Emmanuel?
Restoration. How now shall we live? Right.
Restoration. Restoration. Okay, so don't forget about that. So we are in the restoration part. How we going to use we learn this biblical worldview to reflect on these areas. Actually, they are more than this. Okay, some people are going to add technology or medical field. So many, but just for the discussion, so we just use these 7 areas, right? But you get the idea. Whatever we do, we're going to apply our biblical worldview in those areas. So today we focus first on the family. Okay, family, the first social institution. Everybody all start from the family, right? Zachary, can you read this verse?
Genesis 1:26. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth."
I need to fix the English part. It's be 128. Be fruitful and multiply, to subdue and take dominion. With last we talked about, and you see that God set up this through family. We can see more later. That's when the love and commitment of human to the moral and biblical covenant of family are broken, it leads the way to almost every other societal problem imaginable. The family mountain is where either the blessing or curse of God is passed on to successive generations. Do you agree? So family mountain, in some way, or in some sense, is also more infamous more than church, because that's what everybody born, right? So I draw this myself. I put family. The mountain of the family is the foundations of the 7 mountains. Okay, we talk about the foundation of 7 mountains. All right. Of course, we said that all foundation is God, is Christ, but we talk about 7 mountains. Family going to impact all these areas. All right. So as a husband and wife come together, they form a family, the core institution of human society, the training ground, in fact, for all other social institutions. For 1,000 years, I think every tribe, every nation take for granted family. The only difference is that maybe can have multiple wives, right? But now this family institution has been challenged, right? So that's why so important we study from biblical worldview, because not everything can change. Okay, probably we are Chinese. You know some Chinese word. What's this word say? Jane, what's this word mean? Do you know? Jane, do you know?
子 right?
What the 子 means?
Son.
Son, boy, okay, all right. So on top of marriage, it's God's masterpiece. Okay, 子 Bible said that man is not good. It's not good. The man should be alone. So you see, boy, man, you alone, not good. All right. So we make a, what's these words? Emmanuel, what's this word means? Do you know?
It's the radical for female. I think I don't remember what it's called.
How do you pronounce? How do you read it?
You maybe. I don't know.
Check on your mom, right? What's your mom? 女, right? This is 女. Okay.
Okay.
女 plus 子 equal what? What's the words? Who knows? Jennifer, do you know? Jennifer, do you know Chinese?
How?
Wow, very good. Yeah. It's interesting for our ancestors to create this character. Said male plus female means good. Wow. And you know, when in Genesis, when God said he created male and female, he said, very good. On day 6, he said, very good. So this is really a masterpiece of creations, right? For all the animals, tree, whatever God just said, let it be light, let it be tree. But for man, God has special way to create man from the dust. But even more special way to create woman, right? So it's really amazing. You're gonna say, why God do that? I mean, he decided he's an artist. So first is 1 become 2. So God caused this, you know, all this story, right? And then take a rib from his side, make woman. But now from 1 to 2, but God also put it 2 become 1 again. Therefore, man should leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and that should become one flesh. So really, don't take marriage lightly. It is really a masterpiece of God. That's why God said, for the man who does not love his wife but divorce her, said the Lord, that the Lord is cover his garment with violence, said the Lord. So guard yourself in your spirit and do not be faithless. Wow, you see that? If you are great artist, you want to protect your art piece, right? So marriage is God's masterpiece. So God hate divorce. God want to guard it. Okay. So family life is the first school that prepare us to participate in the religious, civic, and political life of society, training us in the virtue that enable us to place the common good before our own private goals. So marriage is a masterpiece, and then man and woman form this family, become a first school, a very important institution to form the society. So our world is not just randomly evolved. You know that we often just talk about evolution as from cell to become man. But how about the family unit? That's how we live as a society. You know, that's something that's we take for granted. So if the family is so important, now the broken home is going to have a big problems. Family is an institution created by God. Broken homes are major contributors to drug use, illegal sexual activities, inability to secure gainful employment, jail sentence, and many other problems facing society today. So what we study here is not just for church to study about. Really, if you're going to be a governor, you want to be a mayor, you're going to be a politician, you're going to be sociologist, Bible has an answer. All right. You see, all these problems from our society are caused by the broken families. Yet, our society wants to disrupt this. Do you know who's believe on this? Can someone read this for me? Let me see. Please turn your video on so I can see. Daniel, can you read this for me?
We disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement by supporting each other as extended families and villages that collectively care for one another, especially our children, to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable.
Do you know whose organization's statement
Black
from
Lives
this?
Matter.
Yeah. So you see that when the family broken, instead of fixing, let's say we want to disrupt, so everybody all equal. And I was shocked when I see this from Wikipedia. How they describe this, the concept they narrowly define a nuclear family as central to stability in modern society that has been promoted by families who are social conservative in the United States and has been challenged as historically and sociologically inadequate to describe the complexity of actual family relationship. You see that? That's why we need to talk about Christian worldviews. One reason why I talk about this is because I want to defend for God. Yeah, period. I want to defend for God because our society, everything is bashing what God designed. Yes, we see the brokenness of wicked problem, and that's exactly we run away from God's design. But instead, we human beings should repent to see, how we can strengthen God's design. Instead, we store it out, right? So I sometimes really I don't care other people how you're going to live. I just want to defend for God, right? Because that's God design, right? Yeah, a lot of studies. See, according to the National Institute of Mental Health, about 1 in 4 adult Americans suffer from a diagnosis mental disorder. Satan doesn't want people to be emotional healthy. So back to the really Garden of Eden. Whatever God say, Satan said, does God really say? And he's just going to change. He's going to twist, right? So I don't need to read all these things. They just say the research space I pick up from this book, Change Agent, talk about the family brokenness is really a source and problem of today's problem. Because that is fundamental institution. And there comes a problem of 2 different ideas. Can someone tell me what's covenant and what's contract? What's the difference? Well, what's covenant means? What's covenant? I think, what's covenant?
Is Mama hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know for certain, but a covenant is like a it's kind of like a promise it's like a promise that you'll keep forever, I think.
Ah, very good. Very good. Okay. You keep whatever. Is any, so is that a condition? You keep or not to keep? You just keep it, right? No matter what, right? How about a contract? What about a contract? Yeah, is it yeah, Jay?
Temporary.
Temporary. Okay. So you see, all right. Common is interior, in irrevocable. Okay. Just one side until, and so marriage is right. That's marriage vow that you say for better, for worse, for healthy, for sickness, right? Until we die, right? But contract is different. A contract is between two parties that is based upon the performance of the parties involved. Wow. And we see that when you marry into the contract, it cannot last. No marriage can last, because two sinners, they cannot always perform well. No matter how many years you date and you know each other so well, if you make it to the contract, no marriage can survive. But yet, when the marriage broken, you see, cause all these problems that manifest in our society now. And just like the end of the Roman Empire, isn't it? So we need to see the seriousness of this. Too often we see right away to see the gay, lesbian, sexual problem, but that is the result of earlier generations' divorce. And look at these statistics. I was shocked to see Taiwan divorce rate is 1 in Asia. Less than every 10 minutes, then there is a one divorce. China divorce rate is also second in the world. US also getting worse. Divorce rate having spiked in the US during the COVID-19 because everybody locked in the home, right? You see more problems. So divorce is the entry point of the functional and wooden life that often lead to all other behaviors. And yeah, I think we often neglect this important issue. And we need to see every divorce. I know there's a student because of sin, but every divorce is really broke the God's masterpiece. So we need to realize how serious it is and how that hurt God's heart. And because of that, the younger generation try to fill the gap of the love from the miss from family. And that's why they seek other things. And Satan is rushing to sell the counterfeit love. You know, so we see a lot of problem that's the broken home, that the girl may easy to find a boyfriend, anything, try to fill the gap. You see, because we all need that love from the family. And here I talk about this, I just want to have special encouragement for you if you're from single families. And I know there are a lot, especially in the church. Basically, I'm taking care of all these single families. God has special protection and care for a single family. Father of the fatherless, the protector of widow, is God in his holy habitation. Why God especially mentioned this, fatherless, widow? Because he cares. Because family, is his masterpiece. So if they're broken, he wants to intervene. This family, there's no father now, he's going to come in as a father. This family, there's no husband now, he's going to come in as a husband. That's why we see in the Bible so many places God watch over sojourner, widow, fatherless. When I read this, I was shocked. This author, Os Hillman, that said, if the divorce rate were 5%, there will be no gay issue. Wow. So we need to really see the core, the root problem is family. And since we have a lot of young people here, I just dig up from the talk I have for with a single. Many young people that said cohabitation as a prophylaxis. What do you think? Do you agree? Probably you don't agree, but probably you heard many people, many. When I do this talk, that's for Christian, and quite a few Christian told me, say, hey, of course we need to live together. Otherwise, how do we know this is right? You only marry someone if he or she agrees to live together with you first, so that you could find out whether you really get along. And so we need to think why everybody think this is okay, because worldview, we're influenced by the world. In 1960, about 450,000 American couples lived together, but in 2012, it's 7.5 million. That increased to 1,500%. So many, I would say, things, especially sexual things, we take it for granted now, because what a big deal. It's everywhere, because we think we throw away God's words, and too often even Christian. And that's why when we talk about anything like family, government, everything, we need to retrain our mind to think what the Bible say and not what the world tell us. All right. So that's a kind of what we here. What we're doing here is to do this process. The majority of young adults in the 20s will live with a romantic partner at least once, and more than half of all marriage will be preceded by cohabitation. Whoa. Yet, this author, okay, this is not Christian book, right? And I use this book for young adult. We did this for Bible, of course, we don't use it for Bible. We just, she that's a, point out a lot of interesting issue for 20 to 30s, right? And so she said the couple would cohabit before marriage, and especially before an engagement or an otherwise clear commitment, tend to be less satisfied with their marriage and more likely to divorce. Wow. Isn't it interesting, right? People think that you're going to live together and you're going to have a stronger family, but actually it's opposites. And when I was teaching about this, that's one couple, they are in my church, and I know they lived together for a long time before they were Christian, and so they came to church. And when I teach this, I was kind of afraid, oh, I'm going to they thought I'm pointing the finger on them. But you know what? During the class, after I finished, they stood up to make a testimony. They said, yes, for 7 years we lived together, but it's very painful for us because we don't know any time they're going to end, because there's no covenant there. They're just afraid any day they're going to just end it for either one. So you see, people's wisdom thought would be better, but actually it's worse. This is another example, all right? And thank God, after that they baptized, and before they baptized, that you have to get married, and they marry before they get baptized. So Bible says, direct my footstep according to your word, let no sin rule over me. Oh, someone, okay. Let me give you the co-host, I think, right? Okay. All right. So every Christian parent is called to make the home a ministry. That means educating our children in the biblical worldview and equipping them to have an impact on the world. In the long run, This is the best way that Christian can restore and redeem the surrounding culture. Right? We are talking about how we can claim back this mountain, the culture of family. So that's we should do to focus on the family, live according to what God's design. And that's why I kind of also want to point out to, as a church, do we strengthen the family, or actually we not make it even worse? Too often we just do many program activity at the church. And this book, it starts at home. Interesting, it said, the coming generation confront obstacle to believe that goes beyond worship style, teaching relevance, church program, excellency, because it's not about what's happening at church. It's about what's missing at home. Yeah, you can come to my class or any Sunday school class, learn a lot of things, but if that doesn't apply to your home, it's not going to help, right? So that's something at home we miss. And because pandemic, many of your parents work from home, but actually we should work on our home. That's really the first priority for today's society. We should work on our home. For if anyone does not know how to manage his own household, how well he care for God's church, or I want to say how well he care for the society, how can he be a manager? And interestingly, you see that we live in New York State. You all heard the big news, right? The New York State Governor Cuomo involved a lot of sexual behavior, and now everybody quit asking to resign. Wow, thank God for everybody still think that's wrong. Well, we shouldn't take for granted. One day they may change. What's big deal, right? If not because those 11 ladies complain, probably he still be okay. Or if he has many mystery or something, I hope this, that's why the law is still think about a person need to know how to manage his home so he can be a responsible person in a society. So we as a church, we should equip parents, grandparents to create God-honoring home. And actually for the government, if you want to have a better society, that's the program you should go to. But unfortunately, we do opposite. We're going to disrupt the government family and just want the government to control. Actually, that's what many in China took over. Communist China took over China. What they did, that destroy all the family, put everybody live in a big village together and separate parents and kids. They tried to do that, but it failed. It failed. All right. But yet now people still try to do that. They try to say, we don't need mom and dad. We just have a state. We just have a government to take care of that. Right. So that's why we should rethink why the family is so important and how should we live inside the family. All right. So we just touched a little bit for us to think about it. Right. How the biblical worldview can apply in the family. All right. Now we're going to move to education. I put it where we are shaped. Where we are shaped. Every area is very important. Yeah, family is very important, but I think education is much bigger in a life because there's so many hours in the school. Right. Bible said children are a heritage of the Lord, rather than from the Lord, because the Greek word can say of or from, but you see the KJV said of the Lord. So children are not parents. It is entrusted by God to train their kids. And if we especially Christian, without Christian education, without the principle of Christ, then we are simply reeling pagans. Whoa, isn't that frightening and sad? And many of you are young people here now. One day you're going to be, pretty soon you're going to be parents, and you're going to see that if we didn't train without Christian education, we're going to just not Christian. We are not creating non-Christian. We're creating pagans. So now theologian Dabney said, the education of children for God is the most important business down on earth. So we need to take this seriously. I just feel unfortunately today church doesn't take this seriously. We thought about education just the Sunday school for 1 hour, 2 hours, or cell group. But yet we all know what a big chunk of time for us, we in the school. So let me ask you, if it's just whose job or who has authority to educate children? Who?
Parents,
Who says so?
me, Rita.
Rita's. But I mean, yes, parent, but where's the idea from?
Oh, Bible.
Bible, okay. But if a society doesn't believe Bible, whose authority or whose job to educate children?
Actually, government also said this, but yeah, because parents should work for their children and give them education.
Yeah, but now Bible being thrown away. Who has authority?
God.
No, if without God, then who has authority? Who in our current society? He said already, state, government, right? And we see the vividly played it out. Many now the state take control, right? But if we think about from Bible, whose job? Parents' job, right? You see that idea has a consequence. You always say, okay, state. Then who says so? Where this idea from? Who say the state has authority to educate our kids? Who says so? Where is the base from? Right? And so next Friday, we're going to talk about what's government's job. This always need to think about it, to challenge, you know. Rousseau, we talked about this earlier. In nature's state, human nature is good. People become evil when they are corrupted by society, and man is born free, and everywhere he's in chain. And so politics can be a mean, not only create a better world, but actually transform human nature, create the new man, and that is state's job. Whoa. So someone said it, people like it, and just become, we'll do it. So think about it. You and I, we can just promote some idea. Yes. As long as people like it and then become a trend. You know, I'm going to invent something about myself. If people think, oh, they're good works. So now the state had this authority. And also people willing, many people very happy to give this authority and job to the state, right? But what does Bible say? Parents, you actually, especially fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. Then you're going to say, oh, my father cannot teach me science, geography, all this. Of course, nobody can teach everything, but who is responsible? If I cannot teach those things, I need to make sure the person who teaches is according to God's word, right? So that person is still in charge. And isn't it interesting, if your family has an issue, government still want to come to their parents, but yet they want to intervene take away many rights of parents. But look at this, what Bible said. All your children should be taught by whom? By the Lord. And great should be peace of your children. God never allowed or encouraged children of Israel, say, go to learn from pagans, go to learn from Baal, go to learn from, no, God wants to destroy all these things, right? So God wants his children to be taught by him. I know you're going to say, oh, but how about science, history, all this? All right, we'll talk about it later, right? So you see, the purpose of education in America, education was initially designed to indoctrinate, yes, everybody indoctrinate the next generation into the Puritan version of Christianity. There's no neutral education. Everybody try to shape you, right? To shape the next generation. The problem, the question is, what type of thing is shaping us? This is the 1690s elementary school textbook. Okay, who want to read a first grade textbook for us? Melvin, can you read that? Only this for first grade. Can you read?
Yeah.
Okay.
In Adam's fall,
Yeah, finish that.
in Adam's fall, we sinned all. The
Thy life.
thy life to men, this book attend.
Okay, you see that? That's a first grade textbook for learn ABC and then learn it from biblical view. But later on, Horace Mann, he considered the father of public education. And that's his idea. What the church has been for medieval man, the public school must become the democratic and rational man. God will be replaced by the concept of the public good. Every institution has purpose, has idea behind. All right. Before, from hundreds of years, there's no so-called public school in America, because all run by local, by parents, they want to indoctrinate the Puritan idea to their next generation. But now, Horace Mann want to change that, and John Dewey is also carry on. He is the teachers, right? So we need to be aware of the worldview behind all this. And Chuck Colson talked about this in already 1930s. So education should reach delivery by power to build a new social order, raising students, right, to fit what they want to. So when you go to school, you not just learn biology, you not just learn English. That's agenda behind, want to form, they want to shape you, shape student to any certain, okay, any education, all right. Private education, Christian education has a purpose to want to shape you to become more Christ-like. Public school has a purpose to want to shape the school to be fitting the social needs, all right. There's nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to be hiding. Every education has its purpose. So we need to be aware of what has been shaping us, okay? And most educators no longer define education as forcing the search for truth and transmit the very heritage. This is already many years ago. Instead, they define education as a means to empower students by altering them to the need for struggling against what? Patriarchy, racism, and classism. You see, this book was written 20, 30 years ago, 20 years. And so now of course, we see this. This has been doing this for years. So when I first read this book 20 years ago, I really said, oh, I want to tell many parents, I right away, I want to teach. Nobody want me to teach. I do propose to the church to teach youth. And then that time they think, who are you? You just came from Taiwan and you don't know much about education here. You don't know much about English. So I was rejected, really. But thank God now I have an opportunity again. So we need to see education as a social engineering, right? Because think about that. All this coming down to you every day, right? And I'm saying this is because you say, oh, Pastor, you didn't go to public school. You didn't go to public school. I don't need to. I was pastor for 20 years. All the youth told me, they show their stuff to me. And I know, okay? So for those you didn't get shaped to that, thank God for that. And I'm thankful for many of my youth still stay in Christ. But yet you need to learn all these anti-God things. But the sad thing is majority of our young generation be shaped to this mode. Why not? Because that's majority of your hours. Most of the students are thinking their way, right? Like now you say, you want the politics, whole school go out, and you say, I'm not going. Wow, how are you going to stand that? Everybody wants to fit in, right? So, and that is a problem because we said earlier, creation or evolution. And the theory, the decline in American public education is not due to poor teaching or lack of funding. Every time there's a problem, they say, oh, we need more money. Now, Americans spend most of the money in the school, right? It's due to educational theories that deny the existence of transcendent truth and moralities. That is the problem. So I pray, I hope, I know many of you still in public school, that you would find out what went wrong, all right? And how we can reform in this area of education. So education is a major area in the spiritual battle raging in the world, a battlefield where we should be bringing a Christian worldview to bear, pushing back the power of the adversary and claiming for Christ the entire territory of the mind and spirit. If I have time to quickly, who read this book? Who control the past, control the future, who control the present, control the past, right? So in order to control the future, you're going to change the past. And that's what, I didn't put it in English. This textbook describe the early founding father just whole bunch people want to gain profit. They want to get money. All right. So that's for how they form this country. And he himself is a social thinker. But unfortunately, his book is very popular in the textbook. Maybe some of you read this, I don't know. Yeah, but it's popular in college. And now we heard about 1619, right? They want to change the national birth year to 1619 instead of 1776. And you see, everything has a worldview on that, right? So Lincoln said, the philosophy of the classroom is one generation. In one generation is the philosophy of the government in the next. And that's why every government, of course, they all pay attention to education. Every government. I grew up in Taiwan, I know, and China also, right? That we want to indoctrinate you to be loyal to the government. So according to the survey, now it's 70% of the young generation that support socialism. Wow. I think that for the older parent, they couldn't believe that. And that's why we have all this conflict now, right? So education matters. So we need to rethink our minds. All truth is God's truth. We learned it earlier, right? Why we want to start a Christian? Which is God's truth is not just in the church, it's the whole areas. And actually, we are not using the God's truth in the church anymore. We're using the secular way and coming to see how we can make church better. What should we teach? Teach God's words, not human idea, right? This is the challenge of us. Too often we separate Bible, right? That's all science, history, art. Is nothing related to Bible. Bible is just Bible here. Once my wife wanted to teach the 5th or 6th grader Friday night cell group. Said, my wife was teaching science in the Bible. And all these kids were shocked. What do you mean Bible and the science? We often just put Bible in the, this is Bible story. When we're going to study science, we're going to study math. Bible is no saying. That is the problem. Christian worldview is that we want to study everything through the Bible. And actually, evolution is going to do the same thing. They're going to study everything from their idea. So even math could be white supremacy. Even every area. You can see the world, you're going to see everything. And we need to counter that, use the Bible to see everything. And when my children do homeschool, see everything in their textbooks, I say, wow, this is so interesting. I wish I can go back to learn everything from this. Again, when I say it doesn't mean we don't learn evolution, we don't learn other things. Yes, we should know what other views, but we need to know in order to say, hey, what's wrong with that? And not believing, hey, that's true. All right. Two things together is too much. I'm gonna skip. I like this. Okay. To teach is to create a space in which obedience to truth is practiced. That is the key issue. We can learn all things, but how do we practice? Actually, our society is a space to enforce whatever we learn. All right. You go to mall, you listen to all the music. You go to mall, you see all this clothing. Actually, everything is a space to enforce us to practice what the world's worldview. So we need to same thing to create space that obedience to the truth is practiced. All right, because whatever happened in the classroom is going to happen in the society. And whenever I look at, let's look at this chart. All right, look at this chart. What do you see? You see, not only the Israel need to come to the tabernacle. Look at how they live at each tribe. God described how you're going to live, like each tribe, what should you do, very detailed. So God is using this as a teaching mechanism for how should they know who God is. God is holy God. Unfortunately, you see, if we're going to draw today's Christians, okay, this is church, but how about other place? There's nothing different, right? Nothing different. We can do whatever we want, just come to church. Or even now, it's just you don't need to go to church anymore. It's just by Zoom. No wonder we don't know the God's truth. God's truth needs to have a space to practice, not only on Sunday, but how we live. All right. So hope we should, that's my envision is that everything from this, not church, from the Bible, we can influence the home, school, and then every areas. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next few weeks or next few sections. Okay. We need to put God, education, family, church, all centered in God. And that's many different alternative of education. I went to Kyrgyzstan. This is Captain Yang. Maybe some of you know him. He went to Kyrgyzstan, started Christian school. All these are Muslim. Isn't amazing? And then that's how you can influence. And this is a Ruha International Academy in Taipei. I also visited. The church is not under the church, but this is pastor behind this that started this school, and there are other like classical Christian school. Of course, now homeschooling is growing, it's doubling. All right, so we just need to rethink education. It's not just public school. There's so many. How can we be more faithful to education, faithful to God's biblical worldview? So the last, what the school do today determine what society will be tomorrow. That's why reforming education from preschool to universities is one of the most crucial cultural tasks that Christians face. Oh, and I pray many of you will become teachers in the future, but not by the biblical, not by the secular way, but by biblical way. We should reclaim this area of education. All right. So today we